the time somebody fell asleep on the toilet or shit their pants or gave birth on a dance floor. Like, like that's the crap that people actually want to listen to.
And those are all instances that we talk about in different episodes on the podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast. My name is Willis.
Hey, we got Grum here. It is January 4th here in the solarium.
And I am your host, Jacob Bases. Today with us, we have Megan and Cynthia of the Corner Booth podcast here to talk about their show and share some of their experiences. Megan, Cynthia, tell us a little bit about the show, introduce yourselves, and just fill us in on what's going on over there.
Well, I'm Megan.
Yeah, and I'm Cynthia.
And we host the Corner Booth podcast. It is a wedding, millennial relationship,
lifestyle.
Yeah.
Anything you name it, we talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Focusing mostly on weddings, but we release episodes every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. And we've had DJs, florists, gym owners. We swear a lot. We drink a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
So our backgrounds are both in focus on weddings, management. So we both run venues. And so that's kind of how everything started.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, okay. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, I feel like you could probably say a lot about the work that you both do because you manage big weddings and are very ingrained.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
Yeah. Do you want to know like our companies? Do you want to know like us more? You need to dumb it down.
Each of
for
your
us
roles,
sometimes.
maybe start with like roles.
Yeah,
that
like
you
when,
each have.
when there's a wedding going on and you're there and you're not attending, what are you doing?
Okay, well, so I run the events at Chankaska Winery. So I'm the director of events there. And so I work on planning, like any inquiring couples coming in, do tours with them, book them, plan. I have Chris, which I think you guys know, right? So
we know Chris.
Yeah, so he coordinates as well. And so he helps with weddings too. So we kind of split it up and help plan, coordinate. And then up to the day of, we actually don't do like coordination, but we're usually there to make sure that the venue is all set up and ready to go. So we have the layout set up and everything like that. There to make sure the bar is going the right way. And we're there usually throughout the whole evening until we'll see how the evening goes, I guess, kind of thing. That's kind of in a nutshell, really fast, of like what we do.
And my job's completely different. So I run all my title technically is the GM of the Capitol Room in St. Peter. So I run all like the day-to-day operations as well as doing all the planning and coordinating prior to the wedding happening. And then once the wedding's happening, I'm usually there coordinating the day, running the day, making sure everything's running on timeline, decorating, literally everything. So, but I did hire an assistant, so it's not just me anymore.
Ooh.
Yeah, now she has a Chris.
Yeah, now I have a Chris. Her name's Emma.
You have a Chris who is Emma. That's very nice. How long have you had an assistant for?
Like 2 months, 3 months.
But you've had an assistant in the past too.
Yes, I've had assistants in the past, but they can't cut it. So now I've got one that's cutting it, so it works.
Sure. And like the podcast idea, how did y'all come into podcasting or even come into being like friends with one another?
I'm going to give Megan the credit on that.
So when the pandemic hit back like April 2020, March 2020, I was really bored because I also didn't realize that didn't know if I was going to have a job later on because weddings were canceled for a while. So I wanted to start it, and then it just got to be too much to do by myself, and I didn't want to do it by myself. And then Cynthia and I got super drunk at the drag show at Chankaska.
Which you guys were at.
Yeah, which you guys ran the event for, or helped run the event for. And we just I brought it up to her, and we started talking. 2 weeks later, we met for drinks. And we had a website, we had a name, we had a logo started, and a month later, we had our first episode, or a month and a half later.
Yeah. You definitely had the idea, and you're like, I want this to happen, and you were going to do it on your own, and then we talked about it, like, well, this makes so much sense to do it together. And I am definitely not like I've never thought about podcasting or doing anything and being like front-facing like that, but it's super fun, especially when it's with a friend and something that you are very passionate about and are knowledgeable about. So I was like, well, you know what? Why the hell not? Like, let's do it. And so, yeah, after those nights of talking and figuring out some things, we actually sat down and we're like, wow, we actually have everything figured out to make this actually happen. Do we pull the trigger and do it? And we're like, what do we got to lose?
Yeah, literally nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we kind of got it started. And how Cynthia and I kind of came to be was we kind of started out as like the whole competitor route. Like we both ran like competing wedding venues like 5 minutes apart from each other, and kind of wanted to like break that stigma of like being competitors because we share so many couples.
We never had that negative like camaraderie with each other, and we just didn't want everyone to feel that way about us, because even though we might share a little bit of competition, for the most part we still have our own, and we wanted to kind of bring that to light, because I don't think a lot of people see that.
You don't get like a ton of repeat customers, do you?
You think not? I got a repeat customer this year.
Really?
different venue, but same bride.
Sure, that's fine. I guess you already have a relationship, so.
Yeah, well, maybe one of hers will come my way later.
Yeah, we'll just keep flip-flopping. Not that we wish that upon anybody, but it's better for business.
Which venue has the better success rate for like marriages over time? Do we have any metrics on that?
Well, that's hard because
numbers I haven't crunched lately.
Yeah, we haven't crunched those. Also, Chankaska's been going since 2012, so I have a lot of backtracking to do to see.
You have a few more weddings under the company's belt than we do, but I guess how we came to be like close friends more so as we joined, where I was already on like a community committee where we throw this annual gala every single year. Gala. And then Cynthia joined a couple years ago, and we just started going to like happy hours together, and
you bond really fast when you're in the wedding season, and you're like, oh yeah, this is happening, or just like getting excited about something. So we kind of bonded and created a friendship from that.
Yeah, and here we are today.
Weddings are like the weirdest thing. And they encompass everything, but I mean, I've been in the service industry for a long time, but I worked with Megan at the Capitol Room, and it's like bartending with the weirdest, turned up to 12 or 13, like every wedding has its own.
They're all different from each other. Like you don't actually know what you're expecting when you walk into it to know what it's going to be like.
The framework is the same, but there's just the crowd. It's like one big customer, really. Like you're dealing with one big drunk person.
For sure.
Well, and some nights it's so crazy that you're just sweating your ass off the entire time, and some nights you're like twiddling your thumbs behind the bar, and you're like, "What the fuck's going on?" Like, but you're still making money either way, so why not?
Yeah, and I guess talk a little bit about what the podcast talks about. I mean, I've gone through it, so I know, but also like the wedding industry covers everything.
Yeah.
So, like to say it's a podcast about weddings is like when I was scouting this, I wasn't exactly sure. Like, what are we going to talk about? But it's kind of everything.
Yeah. Well, you kind of started talking about how we were competitors technically, or what people thought that we were competitors. And then that's our first episode right there is, aren't you guys competitors? And so we explain how we can be doing this podcast, The Corner Booth, together, a wedding podcast, even though technically we're two competing venues, 2 or 4 minutes away from each other. So we talk about venues and our venue specifically in that episode. And then we just really wanted to be focused on, for one, the brides and couples, and saying, like, if you're planning a wedding, here's the information that's going to be helpful for you. We've done the research so you can know what to do and get like a head start on it, versus also a vendor relationship and talking to other vendors that are affected and work in weddings as well to also help give their perspective on things too.
But also, like, there's so many, like, blogs and websites and that kind of crap out there, like, when you are planning a wedding, that it doesn't really pertain to weddings that are happening in this area or Minnesota in general. Like, a lot of them are those, like, big black tie, $200,000 weddings in New York and California. So we wanted something that's more relatable, especially, like, because our brides that we have in our area, they're not dropping $100,000 on a wedding. So it'd be nice if they did. But
we wouldn't be mad about it.
But trying to like pull more of like that into like the podcast so people can like listen to be like, oh, this is realistic. Like we can actually do this, but also sharing like those really dumb, funny, drunken stories that happen at weddings, because that's what people actually like to listen to. They want to hear about the time somebody fell asleep on the toilet or shit their pants or gave birth on a dance floor. Like like that's the crap that people actually want to listen to.
And those are all instances that we talk about in different episodes on the podcast.
So, search and look. But we wanted to kind of bring like other kind of people on the podcast too. Like we had Jane Schwickert on a couple months ago talking about being a woman in business, and And Jane like talked a lot about like having like a husband that like opened things up for her or like helped her open it up, but like she's the one that
He
runs
had the
it.
vision, but she's
Yeah.
the one that is operating and doing it all and has like, you know, the day to day for it. But just like also having a different background on things that ended up turning into this is her, you know, what she does every day now. And it's not what she originally went to school for or planned to be doing with her career. So it's just fun to see that too.
Yeah, and kind of female empowerment in a way. But
Mhm.
like when you think about it, we've had a lot more men guests on than female guests, so it's kind of
Yeah.
funny.
How does that happen?
Yeah, I don't know.
We want to find different ways to connect with other people that it's not like always the same things that you see with other blogs or something. Like we want, you know, a DJ to come on. Yes, so he's male. But then we want him to come on, talk about different stuff with DJing. And then like JP Fitness was the most recent one that we had on. And he came on talking about like sweating for the wedding or just like healthy goals for the new year and things. So it's just we find a way to make it make sense for our podcast.
And then we
in
had
a fun way.
we had our friend Chris on to talk about how extra things are at weddings.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like perfect for that. So
Sure.
Yeah.
I think I caught some of that episode.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You want to like stand out like in like a potato tomato kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I use
Yeah.
that all the time. I always say potato tomato.
yeah.
I love it.
yeah,
That's-
no, I don't like the
That's the
phrase at all.
Isn't that the saying?
It's potato potato.
Who says potato?
That's the
Is it?
original one that people
Yeah.
are supposed to say.
I've
It's
never
potato
heard
tomato.
Anyone say
It's
potato.
Potato.
It's two different things like
Potato.
potato tomato.
That's the point. That's why it's funnier. But it's like pillow or pillow. So like you say potato.
Who is saying
potato?
hello?
I know. Well, I don't agree with
No.
it.
Kick them out of the union.
Like I've worked in food service my whole life. If someone said tomato to me, I would remove them.
Mhm.
Like I want a BLT, no tomato.
Yeah, we fought an
like,
People
American
do it.
Revolutionary War over that.
And that's why it's
someone
funny.
said tomato to you.
Well, you know what? If you're working and they said, please no tomato, you'd say, okay.
I'd say get right.
And you put no tomato on it. So that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just it's never happened to me. So,
So you guys think that potato tomato is the actual way it's supposed to be?
oh yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I
No.
flip and love you guys.
No,
I say it so much, and everyone's like, "You're stupid," and I'm like, "No, that's the point of why I say it that way." Okay, that was a tangent.
yeah. Okay.
sorry.
Anyways,
Sorry.
potatoes and tomatoes completely aside. We're talking about podcasts. Like, what is the experience of running a podcast been like? I mean, how's the public received it? Do your competing bosses like that you have a podcast? What's that all about?
Yeah, I think I was a little worried in the beginning of like how it would be received. Just wondering if it would affect our, jobs that we get paid for on the daily. But I think they received it very well.
Yeah, a lot of my brides will email me and be like, "We love the podcast. We love this episode. It was so helpful," and stuff like that. So I know a lot of my couples listen to it and they think it's funny because they're just like, "Well, Megan swears all the time during the day, so it's funny listening to her swear on the radio now too." Our bosses really, I feel like they're more proud of us than anything because it keeps us out of their hair a little bit. But
It's like, oh, that's a nice thing y'all have.
but it's kind of nice, having this, I don't want to call it a safe space, but this fun spot that we can go and we can either bitch about our weekend, praise about our weekend, or just have a spot to go and talk about the shit that went down. There's so many times we'll call each other at the end of the night at 2:00 in the morning and just go through everything and be like, can we talk about this on the podcast or not? And sometimes we have to wait a couple of weeks to be like, let's talk about it now because some
Yeah.
shit goes down and can't talk about it right away. But
We've also learned that we can't call each other because then we've already talked
Yeah,
about
that
it.
too.
And so we want the natural reactions on the podcast. So it's been a battle to try and figure out what's the best way to go about that sometimes. I don't know.
I think starting out the back end of things was a little bit more of a challenge because we didn't know what editing software do you use, and then
We came from completely zero,
Yeah,
never
nothing.
doing anything with audio visual at all, at all. Well, for me,
Visual, but-
you knew came from photography, a little bit background, but still, this was so different for us. So we were starting blind of figuring out what to do. Your guys'
Yeah.
setup is crazy compared to what we do.
Yeah.
Wow.
well, even learning oh, we cannot do anything, we cannot record anything on my computer because we always lose footage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like learning that because we had to re-record our first episode multiple times because we
Mhm.
kept losing one section.
Yeah, that was a true testament to if we were gonna make it through that.
Yeah.
Because the first episode, we're like, this is how much work it's gonna be, and we're gonna have to re-record everything. Like, do we even go live with it?
Yeah, and learning actually how to use like an actual recording software versus our hosting site was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh shit, okay, we can't do that because you can only record X amount of time in there, and it's so hard to sync things up. And
Oh, you started. You guys distribute through Anchor.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so you immediately started with their like, because I like Anchor, and when I was going through your podcast too, I went to go message you, and then it brought up like a send them an audio message. I'm like, that's really cool.
Oh,
I don't want to do that right now, but like,
I don't think anybody sent us an audio message.
No, we didn't know that was a feature.
if
It's an
you're-
Anchor thing. We could do that too, but we haven't gotten one.
Yeah, send us an audio
Send us
message
an
if you're
audio
on
message.
if you're on Anchor.
Love the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first episode, we were like, okay, let's try editing in Anchor and do everything there. And we figured it out. Like, it's pretty easy. It's just not super user friendly. And we
Yeah.
knew that from reviews.
Mhm.
And then I have auditions because we have Adobe. And so we tried that, and it's just so much more simple. So that's what we use to edit.
Sure.
Mhm.
That's their DAW, Adobe Auditions. Or
Yep.
wait,
I don't know.
Through Adobe, they have like a whole bunch of different stuff that you can
like
do.
audio tools.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and like just like anything like PDFs or even through that. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
it's like Photoshop, Lightroom. It's just like their sound editing software.
And it's super simple, super easy to use. So we just use that.
It has been a lot easier.
What are you looking forward to with the podcast? Like, what do you see in the future? Like, what's going on this winter, and then kind of like where you headed with it?
We'd love some brand deals. We'd love some sponsorships because we like to start making some money.
Cool.
So that. But I think just kind of like connecting with everybody and like kind of, I don't know. It's fun. Like it's not
Yeah.
like it does feel like work most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But
So I think we want to kind of get together the full year of deciding on who the vendors are and people that we want to bring on, because everyone loves to have new people on and see what they have and like their experiences. So I think we're going to focus on bringing more people on and what they have to offer,
Mhm.
and see where it goes from there.
Cool.
You kind of hinted at one of the questions that I was going to ask, which is like, do you package this for your brides too? Are you like, hey, you should listen to our wedding podcast and like?
oh, I drop it all the fucking time. And they'll be like, ask me questions on tours. I'm like, well, I have a podcast. So you should listen to episode 12 if you want the answers to that.
I need to do better at that because I don't bring it up to absolutely anyone. I mean, I should more. A lot of people like my personal life know about it, and I'll talk to people about it. But in my professional life, I don't necessarily always bring it up to people, just because I don't know. That comes back to in the beginning where I didn't know this was being the forefront. Sometimes is a little hard for me to get past. So
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because you start to I've met quite a few people now who have podcasts, and I always like to know how much how they promote it, or like
She's a great
they
promoter.
bring it up in their professional lives, and like is it just normal now for like millennials who are like putting themselves out there in the media? Like, do we just all have podcasts? Is that what we do?
Yeah, literally everybody has podcasts now. Just
I
how
agree.
annoying you are with it is what gets you followers.
Yeah, it sounds like you're the most annoying in the room.
Yeah, listen to it. We're not putting it. My thing is like we're putting in so much work to it, and like granted, we do have a lot of fun, and it's a good excuse to like hang out and like have a glass of wine with your bestie kind of
Mhm.
thing. But I don't know, it's fun, and I like it. Also saves me so much time though answering questions because brides will like be asking, "What should we do? Should we do this? Should we not do this?" And I'm like, just go listen to the podcast. Like I have an hour episode on there. Like
you're getting my like true feeling about
Yes.
it, because it's different when I'm going through and talking to you in a tour where I'm being more
Salesperson.
professional. Yes, but when we're on the podcast, it's actually Cynthia. It's actually Megan just telling you
Yeah.
how we feel about it.
It's nice to hear the answer without asking the question. It makes you feel
Mhm.
really smart.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
almost like you had the idea.
Mhm.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's fun. And that's the one thing we've kind of learned a little bit now, like our strengths and our weaknesses for like the podcast. Like Cynthia does all the editing because she's a little bit more anal retentive like that. Whereas I would prefer to work on like the social media side of things, even though I'm working on it. Now that we're in a slower season, it's a lot easier to work on social media stuff. But so we've kind of like learned our strengths and weaknesses when it comes to that stuff. And we still get on each other a lot though about like, hey, Megan, you're really behind on this right now. Can you get that done?
Or I'm working till the last minute trying to edit something because I'm doing something else before that or something. So, yeah,
it's a learning process. Yeah, but we're figuring it out.
Do you have any like podcast specific anecdotes? I know you tell a lot of stories like on the podcast itself, but do you have any that are related directly to the podcast or anything like that?
A story from the podcast, like
no, like a story that's like about the production of the podcast itself. Or I mean, like really just any. I just really like
he
when
wants
people
to know
tell
our
stories.
crazy podcast stories.
I know. I was
Yeah.
like, well,
related.
The first night where we recorded our first recording was the night before my birthday, and I was out to dinner for my birthday with my boyfriend, and then had a couple martinis, and then I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything after this. Like, we're just going home. So I texted her and I was like, should we record? And
Record our
she's like,
first episode
hell yeah,
right now.
Yeah, come on over. We didn't keep a single thing from it.
No,
I was too many martinis in, and we both drank how many bottles of wine?
like 3 bottles of wine.
Jesus.
I have never been more hungover at a wedding the next day than I've ever been in my entire life. Cynthia did not move from her bathroom floor until 4 o'clock the next day.
So many plans the whole day of my birthday, and I had to tell everyone, you're on hold. I'll let you know when I can get off the floor and we can feel better. I tried just having a drink or water and things and listening to our podcast, and I was like, we can't use any of this. Like, this is our first episode. Like, we need to dip our toes in the water, and this was going straight for things where like we don't even know if we're ever gonna bring this stuff up. So
Did you keep it? Is it like in the archives?
Oh, yeah.
somewhere?
We have all the footage. Yeah, all the
That's
footage.
great.
It's so great. We were talking about like how like annoying it is when your brides are so attractive and like. So those may come see the light of day eventually, but
well, and that one's okay to say. We
Yeah.
shared a bride, and that's how we actually started getting on a tangent about it.
yeah.
It's because we shared a bride. They had the rehearsal dinner at my venue, and then it was her actual, bride with the wedding and everything. So they came, and I was like, she texted me right after the rehearsal at her venue, and was like, "Did you see this jumpsuit she's wearing?" And I as soon as I see her text, she's walking down the stairs, and I was like, just the most gorgeous woman ever, and then that dress was amazing.
Yeah.
Those things we could use. There's other things we cannot.
there's a lot of other things that are like not
Hey.
we cannot say.
We
But
just like straight up kept our first guest. Like we were a 2-person company, and now we're a 3-person company because he was our first podcast
Really?
guest.
Oh, fun. Honestly, that's kind of how we feel about Chris. He was
Yeah.
our first guest on, and we contemplate on just bringing him on all the time.
he said no.
And you're talking that's Chankaska, Chris, you're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. We'll have him back on, but it's a commitment, and he just wants to be on the fun one.
Does he still have the mustache?
Yeah. Wait.
Sick.
Yeah, he does.
I think he did when I saw him
I saw
a
it
couple
on
weeks
New
ago.
Year.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chris's mustache.
Honestly, I keep forgetting because I just it's normal now. And so I just saw him and I'm like, wait a second. Is it just so normal that I don't remember if he still is rocking it?
I
He looks
don't
good.
remember him without it really, but I'm pretty sure I saw him on New Year's. And he had
On
Yeah.
Halloween, I asked him if it was for a costume, and he's like, "No, I'm just growing a mustache." And I was like, "Yeah."
From a fellow mustache man, I feel like you can say it like that.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
he'd be like offended and be like, it's not a costume. Keep with it.
I mean, like, a good sign of a good mustache, though, is how often you get asked if this is a costume.
Yeah, I've like watched ladies be like inspecting Zach's, and he'll like tug
Yeah.
on it, and they'll be like,
Yeah. At a Chankaska show, this woman was like, "Is your mustache real?" And I think she asked because it was a drag show.
Yeah.
So like that, if anywhere there's gonna be a fake mustache, and I was like, "No, it's 100% real." And like a woman a few tables over was like, "Prove it!"
Oh, that's great. I was gonna say we have another fun one about for Grave Clothing.
Oh,
we had
I was just
Marissa.
gonna say so. We recorded with Marissa from Grave. It was a 3-hour long episode it took Cynthia like 7 hours to edit this fucker.
I had a plane ride to go somewhere, and I was like, perfect. I'll edit on the plane ride. I'll be done with it. We're good. I didn't even get like 20 minutes in, like from like cutting it to when I was done. We were done on a 3-hour plane ride, and then on the way back, it was insane.
It was awful. But we had all like started drinking. We had a couple bottles of wine, and then we switched.
She was shopping.
Yeah, I was shopping. I spent so much money that night. And
You
then
were shopping online as you were doing.
No,
the
so
podcast?
like,
Grace clothing
literally.
store. We like to go to the locations
Oh,
to
cool.
do the recordings. So we were there, and I forgot my computer cord. So I was like, "Be back soon."
in the middle of a snowstorm
Yeah, and so in the meantime, they were shopping.
and drinking. And then Cynthia had to come play catch up. And then we opened another bottle of wine. And then we opened a bottle of champagne.
Well, we opened the second bottle before we started recording just to
Oh, yes.
talk it through, see what we were going to talk about, and we ended up going through that bottle of wine.
I blacked out halfway through the podcast.
Jesus Christ.
We have
we took
We didn't do pre-production right for this
Yeah,
episode,
yeah,
fellas.
right. Yeah, that's what I'm learning.
yeah, we're
Our
contemplating
best
getting
behavior.
happy hour before we came today.
But we had to take a potty break, so we stopped recording halfway through, which I don't even know if it was halfway through.
No.
And while we took a potty break, I came back out from me going to the bathroom, the last one, to them cracking some PBRs because apparently this girl loves PBRs and she had them at the store. And we had to finish one before we went back to recording. But then I had the bright idea of shotgunning a beer. So we did that before going back and then drank some more champagne. It
But
was
we
a lot.
didn't just shotgun beers. Marissa cleared off the gray counter. We jumped up on the counter, shotgunned these beers, and then the next morning, Marissa's texting us camera footage of us shotgunning these beers. And it's not pretty at all. Like, you can tell we're drunk. And, like, the whole ending of the episode, you can just hear us all slurring. And then
I had to cut out a lot. I saved the clips because I was like, I can't.
we can't not have this.
Yeah, and I
but
need her to listen, like you to listen to some of the things.
I turned into a total valley girl. Everything was like, oh my God, yeah, let's do it. But then we had the brilliant idea. Well, Marissa had the brilliant idea, and Cynthia and I can't say no to anything. We're
Especially
always
that.
like, we're yes girls. Let's go. So we went downtown afterwards.
This is a Tuesday night.
Yeah, just random Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we proceeded to get violently drunk, even more.
It was only a couple drinks.
And a shot, I think. I don't remember. And then we went to McDonald's. I threw up in the outside the party bus, and then got locked out of my house. It was a great time.
Yeah.
You guys just have great luck. I remember a story. You fell on your face, right?
Well,
Not at the podcast.
so
I just remember that one. I was like, what?
you listened to the bachelorette party one.
I did.
Oh no, was it just the crazy stories?
Well,
Yes.
you've told like the teeth one like 2 times, but
Yeah.
like fully in depth.
I
on the
only
Grace
bring it
one.
up because I want to see a photo either now.
Oh
or
heck
later.
yeah. Do you want to see it now or do you want to see it
You
after?
can show it to me and we can
Talk about it? Okay.
Hmm.
Well, I made it easy and I've created an album on my phone to find it faster. Because I talk about this way too much. So I was at a bachelorette party for one of my best girlfriends, and it was a slippery road or slippery dance floor, and road, who knows? And I fell straight on my face, and I was dancing, and someone tried to catch my fall, so they grabbed my hands, and that means I couldn't use my hands to brace my fall, and I went straight on the dance floor face first, and I lost my 2 front teeth.
Oh, well, no, they made it. That would have made it so much worse because then they created a lever. They like basically they
Yeah.
turned you into like a seesaw face
Right,
trauma.
right. Yeah, it was straight face. Like there was no cushion at all. So
Yeah, let's see the gore.
Seesaw, face trauma, seesaw. That's like a good band name.
yeah. So my friend didn't realize what was happening to me, and she was like, "Oh, like honestly, I hadn't really been drinking a whole lot at that point, but we had been drinking earlier that day." And she thought that I was just like drunk and needed to puke, and she's like, "Do you need to go to the bathroom?" And I was like, "No, I need to go outside." And I was literally like, and I went to show my face, and blood everywhere.
Mm.
She saw a tooth dangling, and we were like, "Okay, so let's go outside."
We got the danglage.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
So we'll just hit it off with a bang. We'll do that
That
one
photo's
first.
so
It's blurry.
Ooh, there you go.
Did
There you
see
go.
it?
Nope.
I'll have to show you guys the video because it's even funnier. But this is the screenshot of like that's less close up, so you can kind of tell a little bit more of like what's happening.
Actually, worse. That's
Yeah,
like
it's the
worse to
same
look at.
photo, but like the other one was close up. So yeah, one of them was the root it fell out and it was dangling by the root and whole tooth, and then the other one had like cut in half and was like sideways. So like my root was over my other like tooth root. It was.
You don't
yeah.
look that upset in that photo. You look like a naughty child. Like,
You know, I'm pretty good at turning a bad situation into something great. So we were actually, an ambulance came and I just had a little sass to me that night. Like, not in a bad way, but I was like, I'm not going with you guys. I know you cost like $1 million. And they're like, well, just come inside so we can at least like inspect your face and see what's wrong with you. And I went in there and like, well, you have to go to the ER. And I was like, nah. And then they're like, well, if you don't go, like, we're going to take you. And I was like, okay, I got a pregnant friend that's at this. She wasn't drinking tonight. She'll come back. She'll grab us. She'll take us there. And they're like, okay, sounds great. But the the ER was like in 45 minutes away. So we had a whole 45-minute drive to like decompress and talk about it a little bit. So I'm laughing and I'm like, shit, I can't believe this just happened to me. Like, I just lost my 2 front teeth. And then before I had kind of like more buck teeth. And so I was crying and laughing like, I always wanted to get my teeth fixed. So like, now I will. So it was, there's highs and lows there. And yeah, it was a good story. Like one of my best friends lost my 2 front teeth at her bachelorette party. Like how much better does it get than that? So I can show you guys the video later of it.
Did you make the wedding?
Oh yeah. I have the best dentist, and my mom has his like cell phone number, and I called her on that next day and was like, so this is what's happening. And he got me in, and it was actually a holiday weekend, so the 4th of July was like that Tuesday or Wednesday, and so I just was at home hunkered down with no teeth on Sunday, but then I went to the dentist on Monday or Tuesday, and they did a mold and got me a flipper right away. So I got that, and I had a flipper, like just 2 fake front teeth, whatever, for until like till January, so 6 months or so.
Wow,
I had that, yeah. And in the process, you're getting like teeth stuff, so I got like implants and whatnot, and then finally got them in January. So now I got some rock hard and cut diamonds, is what I'm told. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a fun wedding story to bring on the podcast.
I'm really boring. I have nothing like that.
Well, lucky for you, we have a bowl of diamonds right here.
It's just those teeth. How
Here
strong
now.
really are they?
I don't want to. They were too expensive to test that theory.
Funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. What's the winter season look like for your current work right now? Are we like deep in podcasting now, doing a lot more of that while we're off season for some of the weddings?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to focus on it now.
Yeah, I don't really have an off season,
Okay.
but I mean, we have weddings every single weekend until March,
You've got hell season and then like
and this is like
Mhm.
calm season. But
Yeah.
but Emma takes over a lot of the weddings for me in the winter time, or is taking over a lot of the weddings for me. So we're able to podcast more. We're gonna work on some vision boards today
After this.
and
Cool.
build our goals.
Yeah. I mean, you'll
But-
probably see a lot more. I think it's out my comfort zone, but like more video stuff and things to really engage people is probably what you'll see coming up this next year.
Yeah, get better at our TikToks and our reels,
You
that kind of thing.
you have a TikTok famous animal, don't you? Or is that a thing of the past?
I mean, it's technically me and Maui, but it's fine.
Oh.
We have 14.7 thousand followers on TikTok, but we haven't posted in 2 years. So,
Ooh.
but we still have a following.
that was a
Nice.
little
They lie
pandemic
in
project
wait.
too for you, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. I was just super bored one day and just decided to start making videos. And one, I threw my cat up in the air and he happened to open his mouth at the same time the person like screamed, and it got like 5 million views within like 10 hours. And so yeah, it was really crazy. And then we had a couple more that got over a couple 100,000. So
Sure. I think that
Cool.
was one of the
Mhm.
first things when I first met you. You were basically trading me in, and for some reason the TikTok thing came up. So I wanted to know if it was still a thing or what. Because didn't you also do a different podcast before this? Were you guys doing a Bachelor podcast or?
We attempted to do a Bachelor.
It's still the
recap?
corner booth, though.
Podcast?
We just
Yes.
decided to do like mini-sodes where we're doing Bachelor recaps on the corner booth.
Oh.
Yeah.
They were only like 20-minute long episodes, so they were
Mhm.
super short. But
The season
then-
got boring and we got bored of it.
Yeah, the season was also boring,
Mhm.
and it really sucked taking notes.
Mhm.
I hated taking notes because I actually had to pay attention, and we liked Claim to Fame a lot better.
Yeah, the one that was on after it.
Yeah.
We just got sucked into.
That is the thing with reality TV show. The more you pay attention, the worse it gets.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But like, it's fun to have it on in the room.
Right.
you
I
know?
can't miss an episode, but I don't want to have my full attention to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or even like listen. Like if I start listening, like sometimes my partner will be watching reality TV, and then if I like walk in the room and like perk up, she'll be like, "Leave, leave now."
Oh, yeah, I'm a sucker for some reality TV, and I don't want to be, but it's
it's
so mean. Like, it's just so easy.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's some of them are better than others. Like I always like when Below Deck's on. I think Below
Oh.
Deck is entertaining.
Love Below Deck. Mm-hmm.
Or I can get down with some Housewives. I have a housewife tolerance.
Yeah.
Like you know.
I haven't watched it, but Chris does, and so he gives me the recaps of it, so I know what's going on because he's like, "Listen to this drama," and I'm like, "I'm here for it. Tell me what's going on."
Honestly, that's better. Like
Yeah.
just to get someone to tell it to you.
Mm-hmm.
I like Wife Swap. That's my jam. It's not on anymore, but
I was gonna say I haven't seen that on in a
they,
while.
they got archives.
You seem like a TLC kind of guy.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Or 90 Day Fiance, Love After Lockup.
That there's some gold in there.
Mhm.
Yeah, like people meeting like the mothers of their fiance from another place and trying their food and then spitting it out, or like making the other person put it in their mouth, like kiss me and put this in your mouth. Oh, it's great.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm
I
not even
recommend it.
following that.
Yeah. It's like, do you know what 90 Day Fiance is?
Okay, I actually haven't watched it. I know
Yeah.
the concept
Yeah.
for the most part.
And then they'll bring in, if they're thinking they're going to get married, they'll bring in the person trying to get citizenship's family,
Mhm.
and that's just when it gets absolutely
Yeah.
insane. It's so great because this person basically thought they were getting like a mail order husband or wife, and quickly realized it's not what is happening.
Oh
I need to
man,
watch more TV.
yeah, I know, right?
I mean, that's basically like it's like work study, right? I mean, it's
Right,
It's about
yeah.
the industry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can get your podcast big enough, you can attract some kind of reality TV wedding.
Oh, should we set that as a 5-year goal?
I do have a person coming to the venue in February that I cannot disclose their name, but we can see something about it. I can disclose their name after the wedding.
We'll find out who has the biggest mouth at the table too.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else y'all would like to point people at before we kind of wrap this thing up? What do people got to know about the podcast? Where can they find it? Where can they connect with y'all?
We are the Corner Booth Podcast on Instagram. Our website is www.cornerboothpod.com. Facebook, Corner Booth Podcast. I'm at Megan.Felber.
And I'm at Cynthia Strasser. Say it all.
We want to make like a little sound clip that literally says like rate, review, subscribe, and then like all our credentials, because it's so fucking hard to remember it all the time at the end.
Mhm.
Like, what is our podcast name? What do we do?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. We need to start telling people to go over to YouTube or listen to this on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Subscribe.
Yeah, smash that bell.
I don't know what that means.
You get notifications on YouTube.
You haven't watched
Yeah.
YouTubers in the last 2
Yeah.
years?
No,
Yeah,
I
No.
don't.
It's the best metric because then people actually get notifications on their phone when you post or
Mhm.
make a
Mhm.
short or anything. So yeah, that's what YouTube loves, if you can get people to click that bell.
Okay, well, we'll click that bell for you guys.
Yeah, well,
Aw.
YouTube really loves is when people play Raid Shadow Legends.
That's true.
That's what they
That's
really
a
want. That's what
specific
YouTube is
joke.
Their
for.
biggest like advertising account.
Yeah, that and Ridge Wallets.
And honey,
Yeah.
I can't tell you the last time I was on YouTube.
really,
Only for
Yeah.
music videos.
I think me and Jacob almost solely consume YouTube.
I'm
I
a
watch
I'm
a
a
lot of
YouTube.
YouTube.
Well, you Willis is like a podcast guy. You listen to a lot of audio podcasts. And Zach and
I
I
listen
watch
to-
a lot of video essays and bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of like skill study on YouTube, like how to do things or like
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like probably brought to you by Nebula. Like we're way down here.
Yeah, we
All
Well-
right, if we didn't lose you before that.
Yeah, well, that's us.
Yeah, well, if you go on, rate, review, and subscribe to us.
Cool.
Follow us anywhere you get your podcast. Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Public Radio,
Mhm.
Amazon, Anchor,
Yeah.
Audible,
Google.
Google. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forget about Google.
Mm-hmm.
All of them.
All of them.
Cool.
Please
Well,
and thank
thanks,
you.
thanks for coming on. It was a great time.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having
having us. This is fun.
Next time we'll pre-production and have a couple bottles.
Yeah.
You got some good stories, so who knows what would happen. Maybe this was good.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was
Hey, and
good
we didn't
for
have to
a
edit
A
out.
to Z cut, you know,
Yeah.
like your first experience with not having 7 hours of extra material.
Yeah, but you guys have to edit it. We don't.
Yeah,
we're
we're
gonna
good.
do shit right
Yeah,
now.
we just push it out. It's done.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, y'all.